Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our book club discussion of The Followers. And if you've been following along, you know that our members are so excited, as are Brenda and I. So we want to go ahead and get this party started. My name is Lisa, and I'm here with my co-host, Brenda. And we are too cool for school with these sunglasses on. I'm telling you what. Somebody snap a photo. Let's get the party started because we know we want to talk about this amazing book, The Followers, that we have all been obsessed with. So without further ado, Brenda, would you like to introduce our special guest tonight?
I would love to, and I'm going to even try to do it with these glasses on.
You go, girl.
Wish me luck.
You got it.
I'm very excited tonight to introduce Bradeigh Godfrey. She is a physician, mom of four, and a writer. Her medical career is focused on caring for veterans with visible and invisible disabilities, and she's passionate about improving quality of life and wellness in veterans through research, teaching, and clinical work. Her debut novel, Imposter, is a psychological thriller exploring sisterhood, secrets, and the neuroscience of memory and trauma. But tonight, we are here to talk about her current novel, The Followers, which we'll hear a lot more about tonight. She's an avid reader and book reviewer and can be found on Instagram at Bradeigh Godfrey, sharing her latest reads. Bradeigh also co-writes romantic women's fiction under the pen name Allie Bradeigh. Welcome, Bradeigh.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome.
Yay.
We are so excited to have you.
So excited to be here. This group is one of my favorite groups. And I was just telling you both before we joined that it's just it's the most supportive book group that I have ever been involved in. And I so appreciate all the amazing members that are just so supportive and really supportive of authors. I just love everyone.
Thank you for saying that. I know that they are so excited and they're very appreciative and they love you and this book. So we're ready to just dive. Oh, I guess I was trying to be super cool. I might just be cool all night long. Let's see.
Well, you'll just be cooler than me because I'm going to have to take it off.
I'm half blind anyway. So.
Well, Lisa, I think we should go ahead and jump right in because I have to say, I was telling Bradeigh earlier, I did not realize I liked psychological thrillers until last year. And this was just a book I could not put down. Now we're celebrating with these hot pink glasses and they're wonderful, but the book is pretty intense, I think. And we'll be talking about that more in a few minutes. And so we'll get to those questions momentarily, but I'd like for you, Bradeigh, if you could, just give us a summary for those watching who haven't read the book. And remember to our members, spoilers are okay after 7:15, and we will give a spoiler warning. So if you haven't read the book, listen to the summary and then come back and watch the video when you finish the book. Also, members, please put your questions for Bradeigh in the chat now that you know that she's cloned herself to be all of those things. So take it away.
All right. Well, The Followers is about an Instagram influencer named Molly Sullivan who shares all the details of her life with her millions of followers. And she gets engaged and she shares a picture of her new fiance for the very first time. And he reacts badly. And she takes it down because she doesn't want to upset him. But it's too late because across the country, someone else has already seen the picture of him and recognized him as the man that she believes killed her sister years ago and kidnapped her niece and got away with it. And so this woman, whose name is Liv, is now determined to find him. She tries to go to the police. They don't believe her. They kind of brush her off. And so she thinks, you know what? Molly Sullivan posts everything she does online all the time. I'm going to use her posts to find her and befriend her and infiltrate her life so I can find out, get some dirt on this guy and turn him into the police and finally bring him to justice for what he did to my sister. And so it starts from there and then it just gets twistier from that point.
Wow.
Yes, it
And I
does.
would say, indeed, twisty. Oh, well, Lisa, I think you had a question to kick us off.
I do. Brenda mentioned the cool pink sunglasses, which we love. So
Mhm.
my question is, how did you get, what was the thought behind this cover that we all have loved? Also, was this the original cover? How did the pink glasses come about? And then a step further, was the followers the original title as well?
Ooh, great questions. Okay. So let's see the cover. I'll start with that first. So Molly Sullivan is one of her sort of her brand is these pink sunglasses that she wears. And so I really wanted on the cover when the cover designer asked me for my input, which I'm so grateful whenever they ask me. I said, I'd really love it to have, a woman on the front wearing pink sunglasses and then something that makes it look kind of juicy, maybe with a phone or social media. And she gave me, went through probably a dozen different iterations of different things that just didn't feel right. She was so patient with me because nothing was clicking. And then when she got this image, it just clicked. And then she gave me, I think, 10 or 12 different color combinations, and some were more pink and some were, red and blue, and some were yellow. They were sort of all different cool color combinations. And I was asking everybody I knew, what color do you like best? I couldn't pick because at that point I'd seen so many covers. I could not decide. And finally I went to a group of bookstagrammers that I'm really close with. And I said, all right, ladies, you guys know book covers. What do you like? And every single one of them said pink. So we settled on pink.
I definitely think you went with the right choice because this cover
do
is
too.
just so
Yeah.
eye-catching.
Super.
It's so good.
Of it. They did such
So,
a good job with it. Yes. And
yeah.
then the other part of your question was about the title. So the very first title was Close and Closer. And it was sort of a nod to the phrase, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And I still like that title, but we wanted something to evoke more social media and the idea of, an influencer who has a bunch of followers, online, but also has people following her in real life and stalking her.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was perfect.
That is
That
a
was
great
really
double
perfect.
meaning.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad that you ended up with both because it was perfect. I do have another question for you. So, what was the inspiration for this story? And has it changed your outlook on social media at all?
Yes. So a few years back, I was just chatting with my husband one day about someone we kind of know peripherally who is a big social media person. And I was saying how I just can't imagine opening your life like that and sharing everything about it all the time. And I was thinking about how, anybody could find you, even if you, don't show your address, people can find you pretty easily. The park that you take your kids to or the Starbucks you visit, it's not that hard to find people in this day and age, and how scary that would be to have people so in the details of your life and how invasive it could feel. But also, and then from there, I kept thinking about, what if this person who was this influencer and tried to be so honest and authentic about her life, married somebody with a secret? And how does that play out in when her whole brand is about being authentic? And now she suddenly is married to someone who does not want her to be authentic, and her sort of the push and pull. And it was really important to me. There's a few other influencer thrillers out there. And in most of them, the influencer is not a great person, not someone you would really like. And it was really important to me that Molly was a sympathetic character. You may not agree with everything she does, but she got into this business for, a good reason. She was trying to support herself. She was a single mom. And I think she genuinely believes that she genuinely loves to connect with her followers and is trying to be a positive influence on the world. So.
Wow.
I know. I'm like, oh, there's so many good things to unpack in this book. I do. We have a live question from the chat. Edie would like to know, should couples put everything or anything about their relationship online?
Oh man. And when you asked before, has it changed the way I think about social media? it's so tricky, I think, to navigate how much you share online and how much you don't. And there's sort of this, I feel like sometimes there's a stereotype with couples that if you say too many amazing things about your partner online, that it means you're going to break up.
Right.
I've heard that, right? That you're trying to compensate. And so I think my general rule with social media, because you are never going to make everybody happy, is just to post what is in line with your values and what you feel good about sharing. And however people react to that, it is up to them. So I think, do what's within your values.
I totally agree. I was talking with Brenda because I'm more of a social media marketing person. Like I'm not a celebrity, but I share a lot about my personal life online. But if I ever were, like, I'm single and everybody knows that, I'm very honest. But if I were to get in a relationship, I think that would be the one thing I would keep close to the vest. Like, I think for that reason, you don't want people in all of your business or giving their opinions about your relationship. And then if things go south, you don't have all your friends or people online or book club members asking. So I think there is a thin line about what you want to share. And then also because of your book, as a tip for people who do share online, sometimes I would share where I was, but now I wait till after I'm gone and then I'll share. I'll never say I'm checking in live at this place because, so thanks for that.
Yeah, you never really know who's watching. And I think any woman online has gotten weird DMs. So we know this, you need to be careful. Your safety is important.
Definitely.
Well, and that's a really great comment, and also segues into one of our advanced questions for tonight. And Hannah wanted to know, have you ever been online stalked by a medical client or a super fan before? And she says you impeccably showed both sides of stalking in the book.
Yeah, so I haven't been stalked. I have had my own patients request to follow me on like Facebook, will be friends with me on Facebook, and I don't accept those. My Instagram profile is public, so anybody can follow me there. But on Facebook, that's where I share like pictures of my kids and my personal life. And so that is for people. It's typically people that I've met in real life, which my patients I have met in real life, but many of them I just don't want to have that level of, I don't know. Most of them are fine.
Yeah.
But there's a few that may not be. And so just a general rule, we keep that separate.
Yeah. That you want to keep it professional. Yeah, that makes sense. Brenda, did you have a question or did you want me to pull another live question from the chat?
I have. Actually, we have a question from a book club member who's going to come on live here for just a moment and ask you a question. And then I think we can pull some more from the live because we got a lot of hearts too, by the way, Bradeigh.
Yes.
For
Lots
your book
of
and
hearts.
what you're saying. This is Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Bradeigh. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's wonderful to see you.
I love your sunglasses.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sending them to me.
So
finish your next book so you can come back south and hang out with us again.
Yes, that's the plan.
I've told you I love this book. I love The Imposter. But another one of my favorite books was The Girl on the Train. And I've seen a couple of different places where they've said The Girl on the Train meets social media is kind of a way to describe the followers. Did you read that book? And if you did you see any similarities between that story and your story?
Yeah, your publisher sometimes writes this copy, so you don't necessarily get to decide. Yeah, I like The Girl on the Train. It's a pretty dark book. So you have to be in the mood for something dark, I think, when you get into it. I think what they were sort of pulling out was this idea of watching someone's life and judging it and making commentary on it from afar.
Yeah. I saw that a couple different places, so I wondered if you had you seen that comparison or not.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, it was a huge seller, so I'm not complaining.
We were lucky enough to get
Oh,
to hang out with you in Savannah. And then, of course, you
Mhm.
came to Atlanta and we got to hang out with you there. So
So much fun.
we love having
well,
you.
thank you so much, Dawn, for coming online and asking your question. We'll see you
Thanks,
later.
Dawn.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Aw, that's
I
so
have a
fun.
little shelf envy between Brady's bookshelf, and Dawn's. I'm like, well, yeah, yours too. I have my little nerd shelf behind me, but my bookcase is way over there.
I know. And someone was curious about the book that's facing forward to, I guess it would be your right.
This one?
Yes. Someone
is
mentioned that
called-
earlier.
It's called Pandora. I think this is the UK
Mhm.
cover. I have a friend who lives in Italy and she will go travel around and get me cool covers that you can't get in the US. And I really loved that book. It was really cool.
Oh, nice. Well, I think unless Lisa has a live question, I would love to just dig into this book a little bit
All right.
more because we are at 7:16, so we are officially in spoiler time. So we enjoyed having you if you haven't read the book, but turn the volume down if you don't want to hear any spoilers. So Bradeigh, what struck me about this book so much is that there are secrets everywhere.
Mhm.
Like everybody had secrets from everybody else. And somewhere in here, there's a question, but like Liv, of course, had secrets from Molly and kind of met her under false pretenses. Jeremiah had secrets from Liv. You know, Molly had secrets from Scott. Scott had secrets from Molly. Did you know how your intertwinings were going to happen before you started the book? How all those relationships were going to go?
Yeah, so I knew that this idea of secrets and the secrets we keep from people that we care about, I knew that that would be a big theme. And I do tend to plot pretty extensively, where I have, sticky notes and things on the wall, and I try to get as many scenes as I can in order. But then when you start writing, then things sometimes change. And the hardest thing I think about writing a thriller or a suspense or a mystery is if you change one thing, then everything else changes and you have to go back and unpick it all. So it can be a little bit complicated sometimes. But yes, I really wanted one of the major themes to be about, how we hold ourselves back from people, things we don't tell each other. And one of the big questions I think is, can you really love someone if you aren't honest with them?
Definitely that came through. And I'll save that one for later because that's probably a later discussion. Well, I was curious, about it. It wasn't just Scott or Sam and Molly. There were, other people. I felt like Liv was in love with Jeremiah, and neither of them knew their secrets. So that kind of made it like, did they really have a relationship? And theirs was the one that the door was kind of left open for.
Yeah.
But you can discuss that in more if you would like.
You want me to discuss Liv and Jeremiah?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is so fun because this is the first time I've had like a live chat actually talking spoilers. So I'm so excited. So yeah, I did hear from someone once where they said, at the end of the book, I really liked Scott, but I didn't like Jeremiah anymore. I thought, I'm so sorry. I feel like personally attached to my characters, and Jeremiah was always really special to me because there was this sense of this. I mean, he was fairly young when the whole thing happened with Liv's sister, with Christina, and he was sort of caught in this very traumatic moment that he was not anticipating. And I think it really changed him forever. I don't think he was the same after that. And I think, in my opinion, he started following Liv around because he wanted to keep tabs on her because he recognized her as, Christina's sister and wanted to keep her away from Scott. But I think he genuinely liked her. I think he genuinely felt a connection with her. And I think it got confusing for him, like why he was following her. I think he kind of let himself forget. And it's actually kind of similar to what Liv was doing to Molly, not with the, not like a romantic relationship, but it's the same thing. Like Liv ended up actually feeling a real friendship connection with Molly. So yeah, it's a tricky thing. Like, can you really be friends with someone? Can you really have a good relationship if it starts sort of under false pretenses? I don't know. I think you can.
Yeah. And
As long as you
will
come clean
say
later.
too, I feel like it was very similar to that, because I feel like Jeremiah, even though in the beginning he said, "Oh yeah, I was using you and whatever," but I don't. That was a front or whatever to continue keeping her. And I know, Lisa, you have questions, but I do want to mention if I'm kind of curious about who our members had the most empathy for in the book, which character. And I'll just let that sit so they can answer, and then Lisa has some questions.
Yeah, let us know in the chat, and then we can come back to that. Yeah. So I do have a question, an advanced question from Anissa, and she says, which character changed the most from the first draft to the final draft? And did he or she become a better person?
Ooh, that is a great question. So actually, the character who changed the most was the villain, Bradeigh, the detective. Because in my very first draft, he was not my villain. I actually had the villain, and I didn't have chapters from the villain's point of view in the first draft. That was a later addition. So in the initial part, if you remember, there was sort of a red herring with this drug dealer who maybe they thought was following. So that initially, the very first draft, that was the villain. And obviously it was kind of too straightforward. So I knew I had to mix that up, but I cycled through a few different options. Like, what do I do? Like, how do you make this work? So he changed the most in terms of sort of his structure in the book. And then of the main characters, I mean, I think Liv changed quite a bit, just in terms of just my editor and my agent, when she read it, really sort of pushed me to dig into her and her relationship with her sister, and how the trauma of losing her sister as a teenager would have affected her. Because Liv is kind of closed off, and it can be tricky to write those characters and make sure that you are letting the reader into them, so the reader can empathize with them, or at least connect with them.
Excellent.
That's great. I have to tell you, when Raspin was revealed, that was the one. I mean, there were lots of times when I was kind of shaken in the book, but that was one where I said, "What?"
Yeah, I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming.
I thought it was, well, I mean, it was a drug dealer, but it was him.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I did not see that one coming. So I do have some answers in the chat for who they were most empathetic. And Dawn said definitely Molly after the story came out. Debbie agrees on Molly. Rika says Liv. She just wanted justice for Christina. Edie says she felt Liv was obsessed and she had to let go of her trauma to grow. It's a good point.
I agree with that. Good point.
And then Bubba says the creepier chapters were the best.
Of course. Love you, Bubba.
I know, she's amazing. People are still putting things in the chat, but I just wanted to read a couple of those to you.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And then I have a question that's been burning a hole for me since I read the book. So was it tough for you to write Molly's character with her like marketing, social media mind, and like constantly thinking of content? Was that easy for you to write? Or was it easier for you to write from the perspective of Molly's haters? Because you did such a good job of capturing both so authentically, like both voices were just spot on. So I wondered which one was easier for you to write.
Oh, that is such a good question. So Molly, I really enjoyed writing Molly's character, but I did have to sort of dig into this influencer mindset. And there are some podcasts that are specific to influencers, and I would just listen to those and just think about how they were thinking about the algorithms and about their engagement and all the metrics that they track and how it changes all the time and all the different tools that they are employing. I mean, these these, most of them are, many of them are women. These influencers are, I think sometimes we dismiss them. They are savvy businesswomen.
Yeah.
They are marketers. They are, videographers. It is very impressive what they managed to do. And many of them are like supporting themselves, supporting their whole family on, on their influencing. So I wanted to make sure that was, portrayed, but not let it take it over too much so that we were just seeing excessive social media. So it was really fun writing her. And I really loved her personality. She's so like big and boisterous. She really loves people.
Yeah.
And she wants to be an optimist. She wants to think the best in people. So I really loved coming up with like her little catchphrases and her little quotes that were at the beginning of the chapters. And then the haters were so fun to write as well. So a while ago.
I love it.
Yeah, I know. It's always sometimes the weirdest stuff that's the funnest to write. So those hate groups, there's a few of them on the internet. Like you can find it on Reddit, and there's a few others, these chat rooms where you can just go on there and they just literally pick everything apart. They pick apart what they wear, what they say, everything. And it's such a weird culture to me that you hate these people, but you are obsessed with them and you watch them, and then you instantly come online and just kind of talk about them. It's so strange because you would think if you didn't like someone, you would just stop watching them. But there's some sort of weird satisfaction that people get out of it. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it is. And I don't understand the whole hate watch or hate read culture, but it is there and it's growing. And there's so many people that participate and they hate someone, but they watch every single thing they do and follow everything they say. And you did such a good job of showing that without each one of those haters coming across as, they came across like bad people, but they didn't come across like stalkers or dangerous. Yeah. It's literally just what they do. And I think that's such a hard perspective to pinpoint because a lot of people don't understand that. And you hit the nail on the head with that because influencer culture is so new for a lot of people. And I think if you're not familiar with it, reading this book completely gives you the best introduction to it from both sides, but also is a really great book outside of that. So I don't know how you did all that, but you did it phenomenally and I loved it.
Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate it. I even liked the names, the usernames that you came up with. That was so funny.
Yeah. And they honestly, each of them has their own personality. There's one that has like terrible grammar and doesn't use punctuation. And it was really fun to like go through and make that person consistent throughout. Yes. So anybody who reads closely, they'll notice that there is consistency. Those characters, those snarky characters are the same. And
that comes through because some of the snarky characters were snarky all the way through. And some of them were really just kind of, that was their hobby, was to hate on Molly. And then when she was really in trouble, they kind of rallied around her. It was like this hobby for them to just, bash her.
Yeah.
And then the flip side are the followers that love her and feel like they know her and protect her, and then in the end help save her life because of the live video, so it was really, really well done.
Thank you.
Oh, and Molly says online, yes, you rock this book at all angles. So
thank you.
A lot of love going on in the chat. Well, I'd like to follow up with another question before we get to another item in the chat, and that is, I really found myself wondering about Ella and how she turned out after this whole series of events. How was Hawaii? How did you choose Hawaii for Liv? And there's just a lot of unanswered questions. So are you thinking of a sequel with any of these characters? And if not, tell us how Ella turned out.
Yes, I've been asked that. And it's so funny because I think about my characters after the book ends. And I think about them all the time, and I imagine what they're doing and how they're doing. And yeah, I think that Ella turned out great. I think that Scott Sam is a really good father. He's very protective, and he wants to make sure that his daughter is taken care of. So I think she turns out good. And I do believe that Liv came and they were reunited and they were able to have a relationship so that Ella could learn more about her mother and where she came from and her history and that type of thing. So I think she turned out well.
Yay.
Oh,
That's what we all hope for. But we were like, maybe a sequel or something.
Yes,
you know,
June,
you can't blame us for asking. We
Yeah.
like to get scoops.
yeah, we like to get the scoop. June in the chat says she read this book in one day and she can't ever put your books down.
Oh, thank
Oh,
And
you.
lots of people are saying they want a sequel for, yeah, lots of
Oh,
hearts.
okay, well, now you're giving me ideas. We'll have to see.
yeah, we have some love for a sequel in the chat. Oh, and Anissa says, so it's safe to say that your characters talk to you. I think that probably is pretty safe to say at this point.
Yeah, I just sort of like imagining hanging out with them and what they're doing, and I want the best for them. I want them to go on and live happy, healthy lives.
Well, you know, we did too as readers, and I thought right at the end, you know, is there any chance for Molly and Scott? But it, you know, it just seemed insurmountable because of, you know, where she was and in her life and career, and it was a shame. But it's nice to know there was hope for Liv and Jeremiah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that Molly goes and finds Scott. There's a little bit of a hint that she's going to Banff, which is where he ends up, but it is definitely just a tiny little whisper. Yeah.
Love
Well,
that.
then
So
I think we have to start a new hashtag. We want a sequel.
Followers, take two. So I do have another question. It's about Molly. Since she's a big social media influencer, what social media influencers do you follow? And was Molly inspired by any of them?
So let's see. I don't follow that many, honestly, but when I was writing this, I did. I followed a whole bunch. You know, I'll see some, you know, you'll see them because they come across on your social media, but there wasn't a ton that I was following. It's sort of a group of people. There's not one person that she was based on. Gosh, it's hard for me to pick any one person. And over the years, it's sort of shifted. Now TikTok is so popular, and there's so many, you know, women on TikTok with their kids sort of showing their lives, and there's a bunch of them there. So there wasn't anyone in particular. Who do I even follow? I don't know. I mean, if anybody knows Elise Myers, her sort of brand of like optimism and the love that she shares for people, Molly sort of has that. Yeah, there's a whole host of people. I don't know.
Sounds good.
So
I was curious.
interesting.
It is. And there was an aspect of the book too that I was curious about, and that was your the outdoors or the nature scenes and how they contributed to the book. How did you do your research for those areas, and did you find that difficult?
Great question. So I live in Utah, and I'm not too far away from Durango. And Durango is a really cool place because there's ski resorts, and then you drive down the canyon and it's almost like desert. And then you have Mesa Verde, which is a national park that has all these cool ruins. And so it's very like mountains to deserts. And I wanted to set the book in a place where I wanted it to be a small enough town that somebody could kind of go there. It's out of the way. There's not much near Durango. You have to drive a ways to get there, and there's not much else there, but not so small that everybody's in everybody's business. Durango's it's a touristy town, so lots of tourists coming in and out. And Scott could be a river raft guide, and he just interacts with so many different people that he can sort of fade into the background. As far as the river rafting, and I have been to Durango. I love Durango. It's beautiful. As far as the river rafting, I've gone river rafting a few times, but the first time I did it was when I was a summer camp counselor in southern Utah, and we would take our kids river rafting. And so I just love the idea of this river rafter guy. And they're sort of known, at least when I was a summer camp counselor, I was 18, 19, 20, and the river raft guides, they were always like super hot and all the girls had crushes on them. And so there's definitely like a mystique with the river raft guides.
Well, we have a book club member, Molly, who lives in Utah, and she says, I love Durango.
Yay. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
And I should have realized that, because I want to say you made reference to the hoodoos, and I could picture it because I've now been to some of those places, but it added a really nice dimension to the book. So I wanted to ask you about it. It was just, in the backdrop, but still an important part of the story, really.
Yeah. But there's not that many books set in that part of the country. So it was fun for me to write a book set in a different part.
I loved it. It definitely added to this. I loved all the outdoor stuff. It added to the setting. I have a question about your writing process.
Okay.
What is it like when you're writing alone versus when you're writing as one half of Allie Bradeigh? Is your process the same, or is it different because you have a co-writer? What's that like?
So my co-author, Allison Hammer, before we ever started writing together, we were critique partners, which means that we would, exchange pages and critique each other's work and weigh in on each other. And so she was, The Followers is dedicated to her, if you notice that. Followers is dedicated to her, Allison Hammer. Because she was really part of this book from the very beginning. I mean, read every single page, read every single revision. So even though she wasn't co-writing this with me, she was really involved with it, and really cheered me on, gave me so much feedback. It makes me emotional to think about how much support and love she gave me through this whole process of writing this book. So it is lonelier when you write by yourself, because you sort of, you come up with an idea and then you sort of disappear into your writing world for a long time. It takes a long time to write a novel, and it can take a long time before you have anything that you are ready to share with anyone. So to have someone like her that I could send pieces to that weren't all the way finished and get preliminary thoughts on was so helpful. When I'm writing with her, we trade off writing chapters. So she'll have a chapter and I'll have a chapter, and then we'll exchange chapters. So it is really fun, because it's sort of like I'm writing the book and reading it at the same time, because I get to write my part and they get to read her part. Whether I'm writing alone or with someone else, I plot extensively. Of course, things change as they go through, but I do try to plot as best as I can. I think it just gives me a good roadmap. So either way, I'm plotting as much as I can.
Are you writing the different genres like The Followers? Were you writing it at the same time you were writing something with Allison? I
tend to only be in like drafting mode with one book at a time. I think it's too confusing to be drafting two books, because you sort of have to switch between different voices and personalities, and it just gets really tricky. So I tend to just stay in drafting mode, but I can revise one, like do edits, revisions, copy edits one while I'm working on the other one.
Very cool.
Wow. That is very cool. Would you mind just talking to our members about your partnership and what books you've done together? Because they may not realize you're the same person as the half of Allie Bradeigh.
Yes. So Allie Bradeigh is our combined pen name, and we have published 2 books so far. The Beach Trap came out last year, and then The Comeback Summer came out this past summer. Then we have another book coming out in summer 2024 called Until Next Summer. And yeah, we write sort of, we call it kind of romantic women's fiction. There's a lot of romance. There's a lot of sisterhood. it's funny, you laugh, but it's also sort of, romantic and, can be a little bit of like emotional, a little tearjerker occasionally. So just fun summer reads that sort of make you want to hug your sister afterward.
We love those too. Lisette says, yay, looking forward to book 3 in 2024. So I wanted to go back to another question that just scrolled by, okay. Cindy says, what have you read lately that you highly recommend?
Ooh, great question. Okay. So, well, the last book I finished was Go as a River, which I think I found out about because of this group, actually, because so many people love that book. I've seen it posted. And so I got it when it was a Kindle deal. Anissa, thank you for your Kindle deal post, because that's when I picked it up.
Yes.
And I read it in just the course of a couple days and was just completely captivated. Very different, obviously, from The Followers. It's more literary, it's historical fiction, beautiful. I really loved, gosh, what else have I read recently? Whenever people ask me this, then my mind goes completely blank.
Oh, I feel the same way. I'm like,
I always should
I
make a
haven't
list of
nothing.
all of them. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what did I read before this? The Wishing Game. Loved The Wishing Game. I thought that was really wonderful. And then a thriller that I've read recently that I really liked is called The Last Word by Taylor Adams. Highly recommend it. It's about someone who, gives a poor review to a book, gives a 1-star review to a book online, and the author comes and stalks that person. So it's a fun book for, book readers to read.
And then as a piggyback onto that question, Mindy would like to know, what books did you enjoy reading when you were growing up?
Oh, love that question. My mom was the best at just supplying me with books. I read constantly, and she would take us to the library and just get us stacks of books. And she would also, she'd go to the library sales and buy books for 25 cents. And we had tons of books at home, and I was constantly reading. So, I read Anne of Green Gables. I read The Lord of the Rings. I read The Babysitter's Club. I read, just voracious, all the Newbery Award winners. She had all of them growing up. So I read all of those. I loved adventure books. I loved fantasy books. Really, I would read constantly. My mom would have to tell me, go outside and play and be a child, because I just loved it. Yeah.
Oh,
We have a comment from Barbara in the chat. She said, I was at your publisher's booth at New York Comic Con, and then she said Blackstone in parentheses. The reps were lovely, and when I told them you were going to be on tonight, they were excited and said to say hello.
Oh, they're so sweet. Yeah, my publishing industry, they're so wonderful.
oh, that's great to hear. Speaking of publishing company, mind if I jump in, Lisa?
Yes.
I wanted to ask what advice you have for aspiring writers.
That is such a good question. So I think that writing is a very long slog. And I think if you want to write and you want to have, a career as an author, whether that's your full-time career or a part-time career, I think you have to become okay with the long slog. And it doesn't get necessarily better when you get published. It's the same thing. You're still sitting by yourself in a room for hours on end, working through something hard. It is tough work, and it can be emotionally challenging because you're trying to figure something out, or you don't do it right, or you get a rejection, or you get a bad review, whatever it may be. It's definitely this like up and down roller coaster of emotions. And I think getting good at just putting in the hard work, I think is really helpful. So I always tell people, if you want a career as an author, to start acting as if you already have one, meaning that you dedicate, a certain amount of time, even if you can't, you may not be able to write all day, but you set aside specific times that you're going to write, and you hold yourself to that, even if it's 30 minutes. You can get a lot done. I do most of my writing in very short spurts. because I have a lot of other stuff going on. You can get a lot done if you're just consistent and write, an hour or so a day.
And that kind of goes into the next advanced question. We had a couple of members ask this question. How do you juggle being an author and a physician and a mom? You're Superwoman, so how do you get all that done?
I'm not. So this is a question that I always struggle to answer, because sometimes I am like, I don't know how I do it. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing a great job. So, and I think there's sort of two parts to that question that people want to know. There's the, like, how do you do it on a day-to-day basis? How do you manage your time in order to do this? And to that, I will say, I think you just have to be like dedicated, carve out the time. I try to look ahead at the week coming ahead and pick the time that I'm going to write. When my kids were younger, my kids are older now, they're 9 through 17. But when I first started writing, they were littler and they would all go to bed by like 8 or so, 8:30. And then I would write for 2 hours, just every single night. And that was my time. And if they woke up, my husband would, get them back to bed. And that was just, I was very dedicated. And now it's tougher. Anybody who has older kids knows that sometimes that like 8 to 10 is when they want to talk and they want to tell you about their day and all of that. So now it's more like I write sometimes, in the afternoons or the evenings when my kids are just around, they're doing homework or they have friends over. And I'm just writing. I'm just sitting there and I'm writing. And I see them and I can talk to them. But I have gotten good at writing with distractions. So yeah, short bursts, writing with distractions, trying to be dedicated. But one thing that I try to do twice a year is I try to book a hotel for a long weekend twice a year and just go to the hotel and I write like a crazy person, like 12 hours a day. And I get a lot done. It's amazing how much I can get done. I'm always exhausted by the end, but that's really helpful. So that's my like practical tips. My tips as far as how do you like emotionally juggle all the things, that is tough because I think there's so much, there's so much pressure as women, I think, to do all the things for all the other people, whether you are a mom or not. I think so many of us judge ourselves as far as our relationships with other people. Are we being a good friend? Are we being a good sister? Are we being a good mom? Are we being a good daughter? Are we being a good neighbor? And all the things we do for other people. And it can be so hard to give yourself permission to do something for yourself. And for me, that's what writing is. It is something I do for myself. I feel most like myself when I am writing and I'm working on a project. And so just learning to accept that I need this. And I have an incredibly supportive husband who is like, go take your time. You need to do this. It makes you a better person, makes you a better mom. It makes you better able to show up for all the people in your life. So I think trying to work through that guilt that sometimes we feel as women.
Yes, I totally understand that. I do think that we as women are held to a higher standard to be able to do everything. But it is important to take time for yourself. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. One other advanced question that we have is there any scene from the followers that didn't make it into the book that you wish did?
Yeah.
And if so, would that have changed the story?
It wouldn't have changed the story, but it was such a sweet scene. It was Liv and Jeremiah, and they went up to a lake, kind of up in the mountains with paddle boards. And she had never been on a paddleboard before, and she was so nervous. And she's like, I don't know if anybody listening has been on a paddleboard, but it can be scary the first time you stand up on that paddleboard. And so she's out there and she stands up on there and she's afraid she's going to fall. It's this very sweet scene. And he's like coaching her along. And I really was sad to lose it because it's this really sweet moment between the two of them. But a thriller needs to have a good pace and keep moving. So we had to cut it, but yeah, it was a scene.
That is sweet.
Oh, that's got to be painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I love that though. Thank you for sharing that with us. We got a little scoop, guys.
Yeah, nobody else knows that.
Yay. And
Well,
I have one other question. Brenda's gonna be like, okay, Lisa,
go ahead.
stop. I always want to know this, but if you were going to cast this film, who would play Molly?
Oh, that is such a great question. And a bookstagrammer did a casting recently and they cast Blake Lively. I had never thought of who it would be. And then I was like, that is perfect. Blake Lively is perfect for Molly.
He would be
yeah,
great.
perfect.
Yeah.
What about Scott Sam?
So I always thought of Chris Hemsworth as Scott Sam. He's probably a little older than Scott really is, because he's like 35 or something. I don't remember. But the person in the bookstagrammer who casted it picked Liam Hemsworth, who's Chris's younger brother. So either is fine, but very tall, very good looking, a little moody.
Yeah. Ooh, Liam is, they're both handsome men. Those are good choices. Okay, Brenda, I'm done hogging the questions.
No, that's quite all right. I feel like we've been so many places in this novel tonight, and it's just so much fun to talk about it freely, because we can do spoilers. But since we've talked about it so much, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what you're working on now, and when we might be seeing something in the future.
So I'll tell you about the Allie Bradeigh book, because that is, coming out next year, but it is set at an adult summer camp. It's about two former childhood best friends from camp who reconnect and put on an adult summer camp. And there's, camp hijinks, and there's romance, and there's, canoeing and skinny dipping and all the fun things. And
I love that.
Really fun. So until next summer, it comes out next summer in July of 2024. And then as far as my own personal book, I don't have a book coming out in 2024 because I needed a little bit of a break. I had 4 books come out within like 16 months of each other, and it was a lot.
Wow.
So I just finished a first complete draft of a book, but it's kind of new to talk too much about. But I will say it's sort of a combination of a murder mystery, small town drama, and there's a little bit of ghosts in it as well. So it's a little different than what I've written, but it has a bit of a supernatural flair to it as well.
Love it.
Wow.
I can't wait for that.
That is quite the variety. And I almost feel like I didn't hear you right. You had 4 books come out in 16 months. That is amazing.
And then earlier she said she was not Superwoman when I said, I think you just proved my point. I think.
I honestly was so burned out by the time the followers came out, there was a lot of burnout that I just needed to, I was burned out. So I took a step back and reconnected with myself and my family, and it was good.
Sure. I want to point out that we have a special guest in the chat. Allison Hammer is live, and she says hello. Thanks for joining us, Allison.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Now Allie Bradeigh's complete.
Yes.
That's right. Well, Bradeigh, one of the things we wanted to ask you is, now that our book club members have heard so much about the followers, where can they get a signed copy or a book plate for their book?
So signed copies, the best place to order them is from the King's English in Salt Lake City. That's my home bookstore. I'll show it as well. The King's English, and you can just find them. I think it's kingsenglishbookshop.com, and you can order from them. I think they should still have signed copies, and if not, they'll probably send me an email and say, come and sign more copies. So it would be wonderful. They are a wonderful independent bookstore, just a wonderful literary haven. It's the coziest, cutest bookstore. So supporting them would be so appreciated.
Love it. Yes, we
wonderful.
love to support independent bookstores. It's very important to us and our community. So thank you for sharing that. Gosh, time is flying by so fast.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
An hour was gone just like that. Do you have any events coming up that you would like to share?
I don't have any right now. I have some book clubs scheduled, but I'm not appearing anywhere. I actually, people asked, are you going to go on tour for the followers? And I said, no, I don't want to go on tour. I just want to be home. Next week, I'm going to Disneyland with my family, and I just want to be home with my family or hanging out with them. So,
well, you deserve that break.
Yeah. especially from, I don't know if it affects you in that way, but to me, if I were writing such a suspenseful book, it would give me anxiety.
Yeah. Was it hard to shake that off? Like some of the heart palpitating moments when you were writing it? Like, was it hard to come out of that and step back into normal life?
Yeah, I always say when I'm really deep writing something, it feels like I'm underwater, and then I resurface and it's like I'm out in the real world again. It can be tough to sort of transition. But yeah, the first time you write a scene, I feel like I'm often like imagining it and my heart is pounding, but then you have to go back and, revise and, be critical of yourself and trim words and move things around and all of that, and then try to have more of an editorial eye.
Oh, so good.
Oh, I'm glad
Well,
we asked that question, because I was curious about that, because it certainly as a reader gives us anxiety.
definitely.
Well, I, for one, cannot even believe that an hour has passed already, but we just want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing the followers with us and allowing us to dive into it and ask you all these questions. So we really appreciate it and loved the book.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And again, this was the first time I really got to talk spoilers with people, and it was so fun. So thank you. I just
So
love
fun.
it.
Oh,
So
glad.
fun. And where can people keep up with you to follow along with what you're doing?
I am most active on Instagram, and I'm just at Bradeigh Godfrey. So, and I look at my DMs, like feel free to send me a DM. I'm happy to chat with readers. I love interacting with readers. And I'm on Facebook as well, just as myself. So you can find me there as well. But Instagram is where I post most things about my writing.
Okay. Yes, I follow you on Instagram and I love your
Yes.
page. So make
I
sure
do
you
too.
guys follow along. Thank you so much for joining us. Our members are so excited. There's so many thank yous and love. They love the book. They look forward to your next book. And we're just so thankful that you took the time to speak with us tonight. It was so fun.
Thank you all so much. This was so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thanks so much. And one of our members said, recharge your batteries on vacation.
Yes.
Now does it? Thanks again, Bradeigh, for staying with us tonight.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye,
Good night.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
I know one last
One last one. Okay.
last to leave people with.
Gem. Could not get
All
it
right.
off.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Oh my goodness, that was so much fun.
I loved her, loved the book, loved the glasses. Man, I feel like I could talk to her forever, like more.
Well, I think eventually she might get tired of our
I
questioning,
know.
but
I
maybe
think
not.
she probably already is tired of me. I feel like I hogged some of the questions
No.
tonight.
No.
It's so
We
many.
both did our share.
I just, I, you know, we read a lot of books and we discuss a lot of books. We recommend a lot of books, and some stick with you for different things or different reasons in different ways. And I was literally just blown away by how spot on she captured influencer culture. And like, it just blew me away. Cause I mean, I have some friends that are influencers in different, not just book influencers, but in other, I don't know, backgrounds or, whatever. And it was just so good. But it did make me think like about social media, being public. So anytime a book sticks with you like that, you know that the writing is top notch. So new girl crush.
awesome. It stuck with me kind of for a different reason. It was mostly that this whole circular secret pattern where it was going on everywhere, and I just thought that was really rather amazing. So it's different
And I'm
things
usually good at guessing twists. Like I'm usually good at, if I might not get all of it, but I'll guess one or something. I didn't guess a thing. Like I was totally off this time. I was like, oh, nope, didn't see that one coming.
well,
Didn't
and I
have that
haven't
on my
read.
bingo card.
No, me neither. I totally didn't, but it makes me want to go back and read Imposter because I have not read it yet.
I bought that. I bought that when I knew we were having Bradeigh on, and then I saw that she had another book, and I bought it immediately. So I'm glad you reminded me because I actually have that on my Kindle. Maybe I'll read that next. But thanks to everyone for sticking around in the after show. Mary says, all of you ask such good and thoughtful, intelligent questions. I imagine it gets tiring for authors, but I also think they appreciate when the questions are so thought-provoking. Yes, I agree, Mary. I think that's very true. Oh, thanks, Molly. Molly said I didn't hog all the questions tonight.
You didn't, but thanks for not believing me, but you're going to believe Molly.
You're like, like when your mom says, oh, you're beautiful. You're like, oh, you have to say that. Same thing. Like you have to say I didn't hog. You're my partner,
Well,
You're
that's
my
funny.
Before we get too far off the rails, do we want to remind everyone of our upcoming amazing schedule for the rest of the year? Outside of my girl
Absolutely.
crush, Bradeigh Godfrey.
Okay, I'll hold it up one more time. Okay, well, yeah, I will kind of summarize the rest of the year. We have some great things coming up. Friendsgiving is going to be November 16th at 7:30 Eastern. Our next book club session will be, I love this, Bright Lights Big Christmas with Mary Kay Andrews on November 20th. And I love that cover. I just love it. So I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait for that one. We have a happy
I'm working
hour
on the
with
puzzle.
I haven't started it yet.
Oh my goodness. So we have all of it done except for the Mary Kay Andrews. This little part is tough, but hopefully we'll finish it soon. Me and my mom have been working.
I was kind of saving the puzzle for the holidays, but we will see if I can wait that long. Our next happy hour is coming up November 30th with library rock star Ron Block, November 30th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And our December and a special guest. We can't forget the surprise special guest, just to torment Ron. And December 18th, we are talking about Christmas presents with Lisa Unger. Thank you, Lisa, for being our Vanna tonight. That rounds out our year, and I can't believe it. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah. There we go.
It's crazy. There we go. We've got some great things coming up and lots to discuss for the rest of the year. But even though we've got MKA and we've got Lisa in December, it'll be Lisa. So that's pretty cool. I'm telling you guys, if I haven't said it enough, my new girl crush.
The look on your face, that was priceless.
Bradeigh Godfrey.
And I tell you, I want to thank all. Oh, sorry.
I was just still gushing. I think I held it together.
I just wanted to thank our book club members who asked some awesome questions about the followers and of Bradeigh. So they were really exceptional. So thank you guys for hanging in with us, and we will see you next time. And in the meantime, happy reading.
Happy reading, happy Halloween, and PB&J out.
Bye.
Good night.